The pre-dawn chill still held the air when Clara slipped through the side gate of the sprawling estate, the silent weight of someone who'd learned to be invisible settling on her shoulders. The ocean's rhythm, distant and steady, was a promise that never seemed to reach her. She'd been working in this house for months, polishing mirrors that reflected lives that weren't hers, straightening beds where other people's dreams lay. But this morning, something felt different. The air was heavier, the silence louder. Then she saw him. Enrique Duarte, the man who'd always treated her with a polite, distant air, was tied to a post in the side garden, injured, confused, vulnerable in a way that shattered everything she thought she knew about him. His eyes met hers, and for a moment the whole world stopped spinning. No words were spoken, just the shock of two universes that shouldn't have touched, but at that instant collided with enough force to leave a mark. Clara's heart hammered. It wasn't fear. It was something else, something ancient, forgotten, dangerous. She hesitated. But then she saw the urgency in his gaze, not of boss to employee, but of human to human. And against every voice inside her screaming to walk away, she stepped forward. As her trembling hands began to work at the knots of the rope, she realized something had shifted, not just that morning, but within her too, because some encounters aren't just encounters, they're portals, tears in time. The kind of moment that splits life into before and after. And Clara was about to discover that some destinies don't ask permission. They just happen, like waves that sweep away everything in their path. Subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories. The rope was damp. Clara felt it the moment her fingers brushed the rough fabric around Enrique's wrists. Damp with dew, maybe, or blood. She couldn't be sure, and she didn't want to know. Her hands shook as she fumbled with the knots, and he remained silent, just watching her with an intensity that made her feel exposed, as if he could see every scar she hid beneath her skin. When the last knot gave way, Enrique stumbled forward. Clara caught his arm instinctively, and the contact sent a jolt through her. He was warm, real, too close. She pulled back quickly, as if she'd touched a hot stove. "Thank you," he rasped, his voice rough, almost unrecognizable. Clara didn't reply. She just looked at him, trying to process what was happening. Enrique Duarte was a distant figure in her life. The employer who'd pass her by without truly seeing her, always busy, always somewhere else. But now he was here, hurt, vulnerable, and she didn't know what to do with that. "What happened?" she finally asked, her voice coming out softer than she intended. He looked away, as if the answer was too difficult to speak. "Someone attacked me," he said, simple as that, but the weight of those words was immense. Clara's stomach clenched. Who? Why? But she didn't ask. It wasn't the time, and maybe it wasn't her place. "You need to call the police," she said. "No," he replied too quickly, almost desperate. She frowned. "Why?" Enrique ran a hand over his face, weary, as if carrying his own body was too much effort. "It's complicated." Clara crossed her arms, an instinctive defense. She knew complicated men. She'd lived with one, and she knew complicated was another word for dangerous. "Then call someone," she insisted. "Security, a lawyer, anyone." "I don't trust anyone," he said, and there was a raw sincerity in that statement that caught her off guard. His eyes met hers again, and this time Clara didn't look away. There was something in his gaze, a profound loneliness, the kind she recognized because she saw it in the mirror every day. "And you trust me?" she asked, almost without meaning to. Enrique hesitated, then he nodded slowly. "You're the only one who's seen me like this." That should have felt like a heavy responsibility, and it was. But it also sounded like something else, like a confession, like the beginning of something neither of them could name yet. Clara took a deep breath. "Come inside," she said. "I'll clean up these injuries. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from and subscribe to get heartwarming stories every day." Inside the house, the light was still dim. Clara guided Henrique to the kitchen, where the first hints of dawn were beginning to filter through the large windows. He sat down in a chair without protest, and she went to fetch the first aid kit from the cabinet. When she returned, he was staring at his hands. There was dried blood beneath his fingernails. Clara felt a shiver, but said nothing. She just dampened a clean cloth and began to clean the cut above his eyebrow. He flinched at her touch, but didn't pull away. And Clara realized she was too close. So close she could smell him, wood smoke, coffee, something indefinable that made her want to stay and flee at the same time. "Why did you come so early?" he asked suddenly. Clara paused, the cloth still in her hand. "I always come early. I've never seen you. You've never looked." The words came out harsher than she intended, but they were true. Henrique lowered his head, as if taking a blow. "I'm sorry," he murmured. Clara hadn't expected that. An apology. From her, from him, from everything. She swallowed hard and went back to cleaning the wound, this time with more care. "Who did this to you?" she asked, softer now. "I don't know," he said, "but I have an idea." "And why don't you tell the police?" Henrique closed his eyes, as if he was too tired to explain. "Because it involves things I don't want to come to light, things from my family's past, secrets that would destroy everything." Clara stopped again. Secrets. She knew their weight well, knew how they could corrode from the inside, how they could build walls between people. "So what are you going to do?" she asked. "Find out who it was," he said, opening his eyes, "and handle it myself." Clara met his gaze. There was determination there, but also fear. She could see both battling within him. "You don't have to do this alone," she said, surprising herself. Henrique looked at her, surprised too. "Why?" he asked genuinely. "Why do you care?" Clara didn't have a ready answer. She couldn't explain. Maybe it was because she understood what it was like to be alone. Maybe it was because in that moment he wasn't the distant employer, but just a scared man. Or maybe it was because something inside her, something she thought she'd buried long ago, was stirring again. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I care." Henrique took her hand gently, almost afraid to break it. The touch was brief, but enough for both of them to feel it. The electricity, the promise. The danger. "Thank you," he said again, but this time it sounded different. Clara slowly let go of his hand and pulled away, her heart pounding. "Finish cleaning yourself up," she said, her voice trembling. I'll get started on work." She left the kitchen without looking back, but she could feel his eyes on her. She could feel the weight of that moment. And she knew deep down that nothing would be the same, because some encounters change everything, and this was one of them. Clara spent the rest of the morning trying to focus on her work, but it was useless. Her hands wiped, scrubbed, organized, but her mind was stuck in that kitchen, that touch, that look. She didn't understand what was happening to her. She didn't want to understand. Because understanding would mean admitting that something was changing, and change was scary. She had sworn to herself after the divorce that she would never let a man in again, that she would never trust again. Her ex-husband had been charming at first, attentive, everything she thought she needed, but slowly he had shown who he really was, the lies, the betrayals, the coldness. When Clara finally found the courage to leave, she was broken, not just financially, but emotionally, and she promised she would never put herself in that position again. But now, cleaning the living room of Henrique's mansion, she felt that promise waver. He appeared at the door, cleaned up, wearing fresh clothes. The cut above his eyebrow was covered with a bandage. He looked more like himself, but there was still something different, a fragility that hadn't been there before. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. Clara stopped, the cloth in her hand. "Of course." Enrique entered the living room and sat on the sofa, as if he didn't know what to do with his hands. I wanted to explain, he began, but stopped, as if the words were too difficult. Clara sat in the chair opposite, keeping her distance. "You don't owe me any explanation," she said, though she didn't entirely believe it. "I know," he said, "but I want to." She nodded, in silence, waiting. Enrique took a deep breath. "My mother died when I was 17, he began, and Clara felt her heart clench. She was everything to me. My father, he was never really present. Always busy with business, with money, with power. But my mother was different. She saw me. She understood me." He stopped, his eyes fixed on some distant point. "When she died, my father started making questionable choices, dirty deals, agreements that hurt a lot of people. I was young, I didn't really understand, but now I know there are people who were harmed, and some of them want revenge." Clara listened in silence, processing. "And you think it was one of those people who attacked you?" "I'm sure of it," he said. "I've received letters, threats. Someone wants me to pay for my father's mistakes." "But you're not responsible for what he did," Clara said, her voice firm. Enrique looked at her, surprised. "That's not how it works," he said. "To these people, I'm part of it. I inherited everything. The money, the companies, the guilt." Clara frowned. "That's not fair." "No," he agreed. "But it's real." They fell silent for a moment. Clara didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to comfort someone carrying such a heavy burden. "And you?" Enrique asked suddenly. "What's your story?" Clara felt her entire body tense. "There's not much to tell." "I told you mine," he said gently. "You don't have to, but I'd like to know." Clara hesitated. It had been a long time since she had talked about it with anyone. But there was something in the way Enrique looked at her, without judgment, without rush, that made her want to speak. "I was married," she said slowly. "I thought it was forever, but he wasn't who I thought he was." "Did he hurt you?" "In every way," Clara admitted, her voice low. "Except physically. But sometimes I think it would have been easier if it was just that, because those other scars, they don't disappear." Enrique nodded as if he understood. "When I left, I was destroyed," Clara continued. "No money, no home, nothing. That's when I started working here, and I swore I would never let anyone in like that again." She looked at him, and there was a vulnerability there that scared her. "But now you see me," she said, almost a whisper, "and I don't know what to do with that." Enrique leaned forward, his eyes fixed on her. "I don't know either," he admitted, "but maybe we don't need to know right now." Clara felt something stir within her chest, something dangerous, something she was afraid to name. "Maybe," she said, but she didn't believe it. Because deep down she knew it was already too late. The heart doesn't wait for permission, it just feels, and hers was already feeling things it shouldn't. Enrique stood up, but before he left, he stopped at the door and looked back. "Clara?" "Yes?" "Thank you for listening." She nodded, unable to trust her own voice. When he left, Clara stood there alone in the large room, feeling the weight of the silence, and she realized that something had changed, not just between them, but within her too. Because some people enter our lives like storms, and Enrique Duarte was becoming exactly that. The following days were strange. Clara continued working at the mansion, but now there was a tension in the air that hadn't existed before. Enrique spent more time at home, working in his office, and occasionally she would see him through the window, looking out at the sea with a distant expression. He seemed to carry the world on his shoulders, and Clara felt an inexplicable urge to lighten that load. But she controlled herself, because she knew that getting closer would be dangerous. For both of them, it was on a Thursday afternoon that Laura appeared. Clara was in the kitchen making coffee when she heard the doorbell. Before she could answer, Enrique was already coming down the stairs in a hurry. Clara watched through the crack in the door as he opened it. The woman who entered was stunning, tall, elegant, dressed in clothes that probably cost more than Clara earned in a year. She smiled at Enrique with a familiarity that made Clara's stomach churn. "Enrique, darling," the woman said, kissing his cheek. "You're not answering my calls." "Laura," he said, and there was weariness in his voice. "It's not a good time." "It never is," she replied, entering without waiting for an invitation. "I came to see if you're okay. I've heard rumors." "What kind of rumors?" "That you've been different." Clara backed away, not wanting to be seen, but she couldn't help but listen. "I'm fine," Enrique said, but it sounded false. "You're not," Laura insisted, "and you know you can count on me. You always could." There was a pause. Clara wondered if she should leave, give them privacy, but her feet wouldn't move. "Laura, we've talked about this," Enrique said, firmer now. "What we had is over." "No need for it to be over," she said, her voice smooth, seductive. "We were good together." "We weren't," he corrected. "You wanted something I couldn't give." "And now?" Laura asked. "Can you give it to someone?" Clara felt her heart race. It shouldn't matter. But it did. "I don't know," Enrique admitted. Laura laughed, a low, almost melancholic sound. "You were always complicated, Enrique. But that's what I liked about you." "Laura." "It's okay," she interrupted. "I'm leaving. But think about what I said. And if you change your mind, you know where to find me." Clara heard footsteps approaching the kitchen and quickly returned to the counter, pretending to be busy. But as Laura passed through the doorway, she stopped and looked directly at Clara. "You must be the new hire," she said, appraising Clara from head to toe with a look that wasn't exactly hostile, but wasn't exactly kind either. "Yes," Clara replied, trying to keep her voice neutral. Laura smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Take good care of him," she said. "Enrique has a habit of getting lost when he's alone." And then she was gone, leaving Clara with a knot in her stomach and 1,000 unanswered questions. Enrique appeared in the kitchen seconds later, visibly tense. "I'm sorry about that," he said. "You don't need to apologize," Clara replied, turning back to the coffee. "She's complicated. You don't owe me any explanations." Enrique was silent for a moment. "She was my fiancée," he said finally. 2 years ago." Clara froze, her heart pounding. "And what happened?" "I realized I was with her for the wrong reasons, because it was expected, because it made sense on paper. But there was no real connection." He moved closer, leaning on the counter next to her. "I didn't want to hurt her," he continued, "but staying would have been worse for both of us." Clara nodded, processing. "And she still loves you?" "I don't know if she ever really loved me," Enrique admitted. "I think she loved the idea of me, what I represented." He looked at Clara, and there was an intensity there that made her shiver. "But now I understand the difference," he said softly, "between being with someone because it makes sense and being with someone because you can't stay away." Clara felt her breath catch. "Enrique." "Sorry," he said, stepping back. "I shouldn't have said that." But he had said it, and now the words were there, between them, impossible to ignore. Clara took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. "I need to finish this work," she said, her voice trembling. Enrique nodded but didn't move. He stood there looking at her as if he wanted to say more but didn't know how. And Clara, for the first time in years, felt something she thought she had forgotten. Hope, but also fear, because hope and fear walk hand in hand, and she didn't know if she was ready to feel either of them again. The following weeks were a dangerous dance. Clara and Henrique orbited each other, never getting too close, but never truly pulling away. There were moments, small, stolen, almost imperceptible, when their hands brushed as they passed an object, when their eyes met and lingered longer than they should have, and each of these moments left its mark. Clara tried to convince herself it was just work, that she was there to clean, to organize, to move on. But the truth was, she started arriving earlier, staying later, looking for excuses to be near him. And Henrique did the same. He'd leave his office when he knew she was in the common area. He'd invent reasons to talk. He'd ask about trivial things, the weather, the ocean, the coffee, but there was always something more behind the words. It was on a Friday night that everything changed. Clara was about to leave when she noticed music playing. Soft, almost inaudible, coming from Henrique's office. She knew that song. He'd been playing it often in the last few weeks. An old, slow, melancholic tune. He'd mentioned once that his mother used to sing it. She hesitated at the door. She should leave, but something pulled her towards the office. When she arrived, she saw Henrique sitting in his chair, his head in his hands, his shoulders tense. The music played on loop, filling the silence. "Henrique," she called softly. He looked up, and Clara saw something in his eyes that tightened her chest. Pain, loneliness, exhaustion. "Sorry," he said, running a hand over his face. "I didn't hear you." "Is everything okay?" she asked, stepping in slowly. He laughed, a humorless sound. "No," he admitted, "but it is when you're here, right?" Clara moved closer, sitting in the chair opposite his desk. "Want to talk?" Henrique looked at her, and for a moment it seemed like he would refuse. But then he sighed, as if he'd been carrying something too heavy for too long. "It's been 3 years today," he said. 3 years? Since my mom died." Clara's heart clenched. "Henrique, I'm so sorry." He nodded, his eyes fixed on the desk. "I should be used to it," he said. "But I'm not. I still miss her every day. I still hear her voice in my head, telling me to be strong, to not give up. But sometimes I just wish she were here." Clara didn't know what to say. There were no right words for such great sorrow. So she did the only thing she could. She reached out and took his hand. The touch was simple, but it meant everything. Henrique looked at their hands, clasped on the desk, and something in his face changed. It softened. It opened. "Thank you," he murmured. "For what?" "For being here, for not judging me, for being you." Clara felt her eyes sting. "I don't know what I'm doing," she admitted, her voice low. "Me neither," Henrique said, "but I like it when you're here. I like the way you look at me, like I'm just a person, not a last name, not a mistake from the past, just me." Clara took a deep breath, trying to control the whirlwind in her chest. "Henrique, this is complicated." "I know," he said, "but I can't pretend I don't feel it." He stood up, walked around the desk, and stopped in front of her. Clara stood up too, her heart pounding. "And you?" he asked, his voice rough. "Do you feel anything?" Clara knew she should say no. She should create distance, protect herself. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw the same vulnerability she felt, and she realized it was too late to lie. "I do," she admitted, almost a whisper. Henrique took a step closer, so near that Clara could feel his warmth. "Then don't pretend you don't," he said. He raised his hand slowly and touched her face with a tenderness that made her tremble. Clara closed her eyes, allowing herself to feel, allowing herself for the first time in years to believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved this. When she opened her eyes, Henrique was looking at her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. And then, slowly, he leaned in. The near kiss was more intense than any actual kiss. Their lips drew close, almost touching, and the whole world seemed to freeze. Clara could feel his breath warm against her skin. She could feel the desire, the hesitation, the fear. And then, at the last second, she pulled back. "I can't," she whispered, her voice breaking. Enrique closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. "Why?" Because it'll hurt too much when it ends. And what if it doesn't?" Clara shook her head, tears burning her eyes. "It always ends." She fled the office without looking back, her heart shattered. Enrique stood there, alone, the music still playing, the echo of what almost was hanging in the air. But they both knew something had shifted, because some moments don't need to happen to leave their mark, and that was one of them. The days that followed were a silent torment. Clara continued working at the sprawling estate, but now there was a heavy, stifling presence in the air. Enrique barely left his study, and when he did, his eyes avoided hers. No conversations, no glances, just a growing emptiness with each passing day. Clara tried to convince herself she'd made the right choice, that distancing herself was self-preservation. But at night, alone in the small apartment she rented, she'd find herself thinking of him, of his touch, of the near kiss. And she'd wonder if she hadn't just made the biggest mistake of her life. It was a Tuesday morning when it all unraveled. Clara arrived early as usual, but something was off. The side door was ajar. She hesitated, her heart pounding, then pushed it open slowly. Enrique was in the living room, sitting on the floor, a letter in his hand. He looked up at her, and Clara saw something in his eyes that chilled her: anger, despair, pain. "What happened?" she asked, rushing to his side. He handed her the letter without a word. Clara read it quickly, her stomach churning. It was a threat, direct, violent. It said if Enrique didn't publicly confess his father's crimes, he'd pay the price. And there was more, a photo of Clara leaving work with a message. "Be careful who you let in." Clara felt her blood run cold. "They followed you," Enrique said, his voice hard. "Because of me, they followed you." "Enrique." "No," he interrupted, standing up. "I can't let this happen. I won't let you get hurt because of me." Clara stood too, her heart racing. "You can't blame yourself for this." "I can," he said, his voice cracking. "I put you in danger. I should have kept my distance." He turned away, running his hands through his hair, and Clara saw his shoulders tremble. "I thought that maybe we could, but I was wrong. This will only bring pain to you, to me, to everyone." Clara felt tears welling up. "So what?" she asked, her voice rising. "You're just going to give up, like this?" Enrique turned back, his eyes red-rimmed. "I'm trying to protect you." "I don't need protection," Clara shouted back. "I need honesty. I need you." The words spilled out before she could stop them, and the silence that followed was deafening. Enrique stared at her, shocked. "Clara!" "No," she said, tears streaming down her face now. "I spent years protecting myself, years building walls. And then you came along and you tore them down. And now you want me to go back, to pretend none of this matters." "It matters," he said, his voice desperate. "It matters too much. That's why I have to push you away." "You don't get to decide alone," Clara cried. "I have a say in this too." Enrique took a step forward, then stopped as if afraid to get too close. "I don't want to hurt you." "You already are," she said, her voice breaking, "by pushing me away, by pretending what we feel doesn't exist." Enrique closed his eyes, and when he opened them, there were tears there too. "I don't know what to do," he admitted. "Then don't do anything," Clara said softly now. "Just don't push me away." They stood there looking at each other, the whole world suspended between them. And then Enrique did what Clara least expected. He stepped back. "I need to fix this," he said, his voice suddenly cold. "Alone." "Enrique, please, Clara, just go." The words were a knife to her heart. Clara stared at him, incredulous, then nodded slowly. What else could she do? She left the estate, her heart in pieces, without looking back. And Henrique stood there, alone, knowing he had just made the biggest mistake of his life, because sometimes trying to protect the ones we love is the cruelest way to hurt them. And he had just learned that the hard way. 3 days passed. 3 days Clara didn't return to the estate. 3 days Henrique barely slept, barely ate, barely lived. He tried to convince himself he'd done the right thing, that pushing Clara away had protected her. But the truth was, he felt empty, incomplete, lost. It was on the 3rd day that he found the answer. He went through his father's files, something he'd avoided for years, old papers, contracts, documents his father had kept locked away. And then he saw it, the name, the connection. The man threatening him was Marcos Ferreira, a man Enrique's father had financially ruined years ago, taking his company through questionable practices. Marcos had lost everything, his business, his home, his family, and now he wanted revenge. Not just on Henrique's father, but on Henrique too. Henrique sat back, processing. He finally understood the magnitude of his father's mistakes. And he knew carrying that guilt alone wouldn't solve anything. He needed to face it. He needed help. He needed Clara. But was it fair to seek her out now, after he'd pushed her away, after he'd hurt her? Just then, he heard the doorbell. He rushed to the door, his heart leaping, expecting to see Clara, but it was Marcos. "Enrique Duarte," the man said, his voice cold. Finally, face to face. Enrique recoiled, but Marcos didn't seem armed, just weary. "I didn't come to hurt you," Marcos said. "I came for you to understand." "Understand what?" "What your father took from me." Enrique took a deep breath. "I know what he did, and I'm sorry, but I'm not him." "No," Marcos asked, bitterness lacing his tone. "You live in his house. You use his money. You live the life he built on the backs of people like me." "And what do you want me to do?" Enrique asked, genuine. "Tell me, I'll do it." Marcos looked at him, surprised. "I want justice." "Then I'll give it to you," Enrique said. "I'll investigate everything my father did. I'll compensate those he hurt. I'll do it the right way. But I need you to stop the threats, especially against innocent people." Marcos frowned. "Who?" "Clara," Enrique said firmly. "She has nothing to do with this." Marcos sighed. "I wasn't going to hurt her. I just wanted to scare you." "You succeeded," Enrique admitted. "But now I need to make it right." Marcos nodded slowly. "All right. But I want to see action, not just words." "You will," Enrique promised. When Marcos left, Enrique stayed there, breathing deeply. He had a path now, a way to fix the past. But more importantly, he had clarity. He needed Clara, not just because he loved her, but because she made him want to be better. And he wasn't going to let fear destroy that again. Clara was home when the rain started, heavy, violent, as if the sky were weeping. She was sitting on the couch, staring into space when she heard the knock on the door. When she opened it, Enrique was there, soaked, panting, vulnerable. "What are you doing here?" she asked, surprised. "I need to talk to you." "Enrique." "Please," he interrupted. "Just listen to me." Clara hesitated, then opened the door wider. Enrique stepped inside, dripping water onto the floor, but he didn't seem to care. "I messed up," he said, straight to the point. "I pushed you away because I was scared of hurting you, scared of not being enough, scared that everything I touch ends up ruined." He took a step closer. "But the truth is, without you, I'm already ruined, because you make me want to be better. You make me believe I can be more than my father's mistakes. And I don't want to live without that, without you." Clara felt tears welling up. "Enrique, I know I don't have the right to ask this, he continued. "I know I hurt you, but if you give me a chance, just one chance, I promise I'll spend the rest of my life proving you didn't make a mistake trusting me." Clara looked at him, her heart pounding. She could see the sincerity there. The vulnerability, the love. "You scared me," she admitted, "pushing me away like that. It felt like reliving everything all over again." "I know," Henrique said, his voice cracking, "and I am so sorry." Clara took a deep breath. "But I'm scared too, scared of opening myself up and getting hurt again." Henrique took another step, now close enough to touch her. "Then let's be scared together," he said softly, "but not alone." He reached out, touching her face with a gentleness that made her tremble. "I love you, Clara, and I know it's soon. I know it's complicated, but it's true, and I'm not hiding it anymore." Clara closed her eyes, tears falling freely now. "I love you too," she whispered. And then, finally, they kissed. It wasn't a perfect kiss. It was desperate, wet with rain and tears, full of fear and hope all at once, but it was real, and it was theirs. When they broke apart, Henrique rested his forehead against hers. "I won't let you down," he promised, "and I won't run away," Clara promised back. And in that moment, under the rain and the weight of everything they had faced, they understood. Love isn't about not being afraid. It's about having the courage to feel anyway. 6 months later, Clara stood on the porch of the estate, looking out at the ocean. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. She could hear the music playing inside the house, the same song Henrique loved so much. But now when it played, it didn't bring pain. It brought memory and peace. Henrique appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her from behind and resting his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "How much everything has changed," she said, smiling. "For the better? So much better." Henrique had kept his promise. He investigated his father's business dealings, made amends to those who were wronged, including Marcos. It wasn't easy. There were tough times, hard conversations, choices that came at a cost, but he did it the right way. And Clara had been by his side every step of the way. They weren't perfect. They still had fears. They still argued sometimes. But they had learned to communicate, to support each other, to build something together that neither of them thought was possible before. "You know what I realized," Henrique said, breaking the silence. "What?" "That you were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I almost let you go." Clara turned in his arms, looking into his eyes. "But you didn't." "No," he agreed, "and I never will." They kissed, soft and slow, as the sun disappeared below the horizon. And when they separated, Clara noticed a small box in Henrique's hand. "Henrique." "Hold on," he said, laughing. "It's not what you're thinking, not yet." He opened the box, revealing a key. "What's this?" "The key to the house," he said. "Our house, if you want it." Clara felt her eyes sting. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely," he said. "I want to wake up with you every day. I want to build a life with you. I want it all." Clara held the key, her heart overflowing. "I want it too," she said. And in that moment, under the sky, painted with impossible colors, they understood that true love isn't found. It's built, day by day, choice by choice. And that's how two broken hearts discovered that love, when it's true, always finds a way. And you, what did you think of this story? What was the moment that touched your heart the most? Leave your comments below and take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel. That way you never miss our love stories.